This episode of Inside Golf Podcast is brought to you by Inside Sports Network.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Boston Capital Twitter, Steve, on the Hold the Green podcast.
All right, we are live. Tapping birdie.
All right, Carson Young is here.
I bet Ludwig at 28.
Let's go. I bet
You
him
do
at,
too?
I bet him at 25.
Low sevens. I think there's some guys in here we like.
Harris English at 7,300.
Why the fuck would I not bet Rory?
This episode of Inside Golf Podcast is brought to you by Inside Sports Network. We are now fully in Masters season. We've got Houston this week, Valero, and then right into the first major of the year. I would say if there is a point in the season, if there is ever a point in the season to sign up for the monthly at Inside Sports Network, it is now, because you will get all of our coverage for these next two events. And this week is going to be a huge one for us. I love the Houston Open. I think it's the most underrated golf course on the PGA Tour. I have very strong vibes here. My tout course history is off the fucking charts. We hit Jaeger 55-1 last year. I finished second in the $100 single entry. It was my best week of the year last year from a profit standpoint. And we were able to identify a big edge, figuring out the impact that the overseed had on how the golf course would play. Something I'll get into a bunch today, obviously. But for these next two Texas events, we'll have on-course reporting as well from the stick man, practice round coverage from Johnny Utes. These practice rounds at Houston and Valero are not open to the public, but we will have the stick man on site for us at both of them. Hopefully our boy Devin out there as well, who has just been a tremendous asset to our company and the Discord and really knows his stuff and is going to be covering a bunch of the Texas events for us. I'm fascinated to hear more about how the golf course is going to play this year. I've already been talking to a couple people that are in the Houston area, because the area is getting some rain as well tournament week. So I actually think it's going to play longer and softer than last year. But we essentially made a big investment in having ISN just now be at most tournaments for practice rounds. And we didn't raise the price at all. We probably will in the future, but I would lock in the price now, because for $40 a month, you are getting now full write-ups on how the golf course is going to play on Tuesday and Wednesday. Really good ownership predictions. The premium show on Wednesday, which I think is a must listen at this point in terms of DFS. I'm super proud of how we handled the weather this week, the quote unquote wave edge, and identified the fact that in this case, the market was reacting so strongly to the weather, and that there was almost more of an edge now on playing guys on the other side at lower ownership. And I think so many people failed to see when they were just blindly playing this perceived weather edge is how much the market was actually reacting this time. And the only way that you're able to come to that conclusion is if you have really good ownership projections. I'm telling you, you cannot take yourself seriously as a DFS player if you are not using accurate ownership predictions. And I've basically made a deal with the devil and given up much of my hobbies between Monday and Wednesday to provide the best ownership out there. So give us a shot for the next month. I promise you will not be disappointed. I can assure you, for the amount, the pure volume, and the level of analysis that we provide on both the ownership side and the golf course condition side, you're really at a disadvantage now if you aren't taking these things into consideration. We're just going to keep utilizing this edge to find our way to the tops of leaderboards. And every Sunday, it's just been so many of our subscribers having a lot of success in DFS showdown scoring props. And I think if you're not getting this level of analysis, you're just going to be at a disadvantage now to the hundreds of folks that are using this information. Hopefully we can get an outright ticket home this week at the Valspar. As soon as I finish recording this, I'm recording this 8:45 a.m. Pacific time. My apologies for not recording last night. Wasn't there on the research yet. I needed to grind a little bit harder on some of the players that I was thinking about as early leans. But I am on to round 2 of the member. I know who cares about what you shot today or my personal golfing journey. But it's basically like a March Madness style bracket. There's 64 teams. Round 1 was last weekend. We won. Got to be honest, it's not much of a Vic lap. My partner played his ass off. I contributed and was fine, but I was not the MVP of my team at all. My partner is a 7 handicap, and he shot 36 on the back 9. I didn't have to do much. So it's partner best ball. Round 1 was last weekend, and you basically have 2 weeks every round to complete your match. It actually moves pretty quickly. But basically goes from middle of March to like end of May, maybe beginning of April for the final 4. So once again, unfortunately, I will miss the entire final round of the Valspar and sweating Jacob Bridgman. Corey Connors, I would suppose is in the mix as well. He's like 24-1 heading into the day. Even Bud Cauley is loitering. I think it's a blessing in disguise that I'm going to miss this one. I'm not loving the sustainability models on Bridgman. He's not passing the eye test for me. Between Bridgman, Corey Connors, and Cauley, Data Golf is giving me a 20% chance to hit a winner today. I will take that heading into every Sunday, having a 1 in 5 chance. Unfortunately, I can't say I agree with the Bridgman 15% win probability. Of the 3 guys at 7, I would rank Bridgman last. 15% win probability, and Nico Etch 10% win probability. Those should be reversed. Connors at 4%, you could make the argument should be higher, but Bridgman not passing the smell test for me. He's first in the field in putting, barely gaining from tee to green. Usually I'm always rooting against this guy, right? The guy that has no business being at the top of the leaderboard, the biggest luck box in the field. And this week I'm on him. Don't get me wrong. I don't care how he's doing it. Great bet at 60-1. Literally all you can ask for from a guy at 60-1 heading into Sunday. But I think between Hovland, Bridgman, and Nico at -7, Bridgman is the guy that feels the least sustainable to me of that group. But hey, I said at the beginning of the week last week, the Valspar doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think it's one of the hardest handicaps on the PGA Tour because the players that always seem to find their way to the top of the leaderboard here are generally not players that you would typically expect to play well on a golf course with such a low driving accuracy percentage and greens and regulation percentage. But like we talked about last week, despite all of conventional wisdom leading to this being an elite test of tee to green, you generally win the Valspar by spiking on the greens, which is what Bridgman is doing. So maybe the thing that he has most going for him is that he's probably the most like Peter Malnati of that group of guys at the top. But regardless, really happy with how the week shook out for us at the Valspar. And hopefully we have a good run out today. I could do a dissertation on my opinion of how the market and DFS players reacted to the weather this week. And of course, being the marketing arm of our company, I'm really proud of how ISN handled it and just the way that we laid out on our Wednesday night show, a must listen for DFS players at this point. Essentially, I said this on Wednesday, I'll say it again now. The only big losers in this were people that were completely unwilling to question their perspective, right? And I think that's really all that we try and do at ISN is lay out all of the arguments, right? So our Wednesday show, we often disagree. And I think that's what makes it the best DFS show out there. And such an important show to watch because, for example, well, we try and lay out the case for all types of different strategies, but I, for example, I took the weather into account, I think, more than I should have. I didn't full stack, but I absolutely attacked it. I absolutely, played guys. I sacrificed good course fits in order to get more exposure to guys from the quote unquote right side of the draw. And I made a lot of swaps in my player pool based on tee time. Okay. And I would have had a better week in DFS if I stuck with the guys that I had circled based on course fit before I made those swaps. And it's still a good week, but if I had attacked it with the presumption that there would be no advantageous side of the draw and just created my pool based on course fit, like in my 20-person pool, I only played 5 guys from the quote unquote right side of the draw. Like I found 5 guys that I thought, regardless of the tee time, these are amazing course fits, and now you're getting them at half or 2/3 of the ownership of what they would be if they were on the perceived right side of the draw. And they were 5 of the better plays on the slate. They all made a cut, and 3 of the 5 have a real chance to win today. Kyle and Rishi, 2 of my co-hosts, went way more aggressive on the other side. Rishi, big time, and Kyle did a lot of this as well. And Kyle's got some real runners today too. Basically full stack the other side of the draw, which no one was even, not many people were even talking about this as a potential real option based on what the ownership was starting to come in at. Okay. And, he's now sitting with a bunch of players at much lower ownership heading into today with a much wider path to victory based on the leverage that he was able to create by playing what I would say ended up being the real edge. And I think that's what you want to try and be focused on in daily fantasy every single week is how can you put yourself in a position to have the widest path to victory in week to week daily fantasy. And the number one way that you win money in daily fantasy is when you have low owned players that outperform the rest of the field, right? So when you get guys at low ownership into the weekend, your path to victory is far wider than the path to victory that you would have if the players that you have heading into the weekend were also owned by a large majority of the field. In that case, your path to victory is a lot smaller. And that's the way that we continue to play DFS and affect DFS. And if you and attack DFS, and if you don't think ownership matters in DFS, then we are not the same, so that's my spiel. That's my marketing sell for ISN of the week. Let's let's move on. Let's get into let's talk Houston. I freaking love this event, and hopefully a good run out today. Like I said, I can't say my expectations are super high on Connors or the Bridge Man. But hopefully we can have like I said, a good run out today and get one home. Houston. So this event used to be in the fall. And this is the second year that it's in the spring. This is very notable and very important because the golf course plays far differently in the spring than it does the fall. So last year, 2024, Stefan Jaeger won this event at 12 under par over Tony Finau, Thomas Dietrich, Alejandro Tosti, Scotty Scheffler, Taylor Moore. Dietrich was 55-1. The scoring average was basically even par. Okay, so that's really the year that you want to look at. Okay, because 2023, 2022, 2021, while all of these events were played at Memorial Park, they were played during the fall swing under different agronomy, right? You didn't have the overseed. The rough was thicker. It was not overseeded, so it was more of a pure Bermuda at that time of year. And as a result, the missed fairway penalty was a lot higher. And the path to victory, the required skill set, was far more well-rounded than the overseeded version of Memorial Park. Essentially last year, and this is what brought us on Jaeger, Finau, Taylor Moore, Thomas Dietrich. I remember Akshay was big in my lineup as well, who finished T11 that year. But now with the overseed, actually, you know what? We'll get into that in a second. A couple more basics on the golf course. John Bredemus design, Tom Doak 2019. It's a par 7. Tom Doak came in and did a big renovation / restoration to the golf course on an original John Bredemus design. Bredemus, I don't know. It's spelled Bredemus, 1936. I got to be honest, I'm not super familiar with his work. The name sounds familiar. He's not like a one-off. He's designed some other golf courses, I think, in the Texas area. Can't say I've played any of his designs, and I can't say that I'm familiar with an overhanging design philosophy out of him, but it was a phenomenal restoration renovation. I mean, I think Doak really put his own spin on the place and really did a lot to get the most out of those green complexes. Like I mentioned, Poa Trivialis overseed, large 7,000 square foot greens, 30 to 40 yard wide, pretty large fairways with perennial ryegrass overseed. There's virtually no rough. They've chopped down most of the rough to Augustify the shit out of this place. And that's why I tweeted, this is a much better golf course for Rory to play leading into the Masters than the Valero Texas Open, because they have made an active effort last year when overseeding the golf course to make this as close to an Augusta-esque test as you will find on the PGA Tour. And I think they've done a really good job of that, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not obviously it's not Augusta. Augusta is the most unique golf course on the PGA Tour. But as far as replica goes, there are a lot of things that if you are able to do well at Memorial Park, that's also going to serve you well at Augusta. And I think it's one of the best American examples that municipal golf, I've never played Memorial Park, but I have a lot of friends in Houston that speak super highly of it. Municipal golf can be good golf. You know, it's inside Houston proper. It hosts over 60,000 rounds a year at an affordable price. It probably, George Wright, the park in Palm Beach are certainly in this category as well. Probably one of the best municipal golf courses in America, probably one of the best golf courses, public access golf courses inside the city limits of a relatively major U.S. city in America as well. And in 2019, Tom Doak was hired by the Houston Astros owner at the time, Jim Crane, to give the golf course a total facelift. Now, Tom Doak is arguably the best working modern architect doing it right now. So don't take weeks like this for granted, as we seldom get to watch professional golfers take on a golf course with such creatively constructed greens by a true master in the space in Tom Doak. He added a lot more movement to the fairways, and these are some super provocative avant-garde green complexes, right? Which allow the golf course to really shine. The green complexes at Memorial Park are the star of the show. These might be the best greens on tour outside of Augusta. And Tom Doak, I would say, is one of the few architects who understands that it is far more, this is a big one, far more interesting watching pros chip off of tight lies and short grass than it is watching them chip out of bunkers or thick rough. This golf course features only 19 bunkers. And instead, we have these grand, heavily sloping collection areas that, truly require short game skill and creativity. Okay, so, we saw the golf course a couple times in the fall, but last year, how did things change with the overseed? So the first thing that I would say about the overseed, right, is that they really made an active effort to, like I alluded to earlier in the podcast, Augustify the golf course. So what do you see at Augusta? You see pretty expansive, wide open driving corridors, right? With very little overseeded rough, right? And the agronomy now with the overseed is a lot more, at least, similar to Augusta in terms of how the fairways and rough play compared to a fully grown in Bermuda that you would have seen during the fall, right? And that agronomy change from that sticky, hot, somewhat unpredictable fall Bermuda makes a really, really big difference in the miss fairway penalty, right? And I remember last year we talked a lot about how the lower missed fairway penalty, and I remember, like, Scotty was 40%, 50% in DFS last year, and it was a big argument about whether to play Scotty, and, you had to play Scotty, and of course, I didn't play Scotty and, had my best week of the year, but, I also had Jaeger, Finau, Rye, Bhatia, Siwoo. Finau missed a 3-footer for me to win the $100 single entry. Those were the days when I used to be able to hit the winner of the golf tournament. It's been a good year grinding the small edges in the top 20 and matchup market, but man, would it be fun to hit the winner again this week or next. But outside of the lower missed fairway penalty that you're going to get with the overseed, because not only is the rough now a lot easier to hit out of, but they chopped it all down as well. So last year with the overseed, it had the lowest missed fairway penalty on the entire PGA Tour last year. It ranked 43rd out of 43 courses in rough penalty. Okay. And what this really created, the best way that I would talk about the overhanging narrative this week at Houston, because I think that with the overseed now, it's one of the easiest handicaps on the PGA Tour. At least that's how I felt last year. And this year, I think the golf course is actually just going to play even softer and longer than it did last year, which is going to be even more conducive to the bomber short game / putting skill set that I'm really, really looking for this week. But we already got some rain in the Houston area recently. There's going to be some more rain potentially overnight on Monday and early into Tuesday morning. And then we can expect some more significant rain in the forecast again on Friday afternoon and all the way through Saturday. If this weather holds, and obviously we'll be updating how we feel about the weather every single day in the Discord, I would expect conditions very similar to the 2021 COVID Masters, right? Soft golf course, still windy enough to play difficult, however, extremely driver heavy, where carry distance and apex height will play a massive role. And even last year under drier conditions, players with a higher carry distance and apex height led the way at the top of the leaderboard. This version of Memorial Park is a quintessential driver short game golf course. Last year, Tony Finau and Stefan Jaeger, both core plays for me that finished first and second. Thomas Dietrich, Taylor Moore also finished runner up. Max Grazerman wasn't too far behind. And I would even put Scotty Scheffler into this category as well, because Scotty Scheffler he's definitely more of an accuracy over distance player. Like, I think the overseed didn't help Scotty Scheffler. It's all relative, right? Scotty Scheffler's an amazing golf course fit at every single place that he tees it up, but I would prefer Scotty Scheffler on golf courses where accuracy actually was accentuated over distance. Not that he's not long, he's plenty long. But one of the reasons why I took the other side on Scotty Scheffler last year was that the overseed just made it so bomber friendly. So you were able to find this skill set that Finau has, that Jaeger has, that Dietrich has, that Taylor Moore has, where every single one of these players absolutely murder the ball off the tee and either have great short games or the ability to completely spike with their putter. Every single one of those guys ranked top 30 in strokes gained around the green last year, as well as top 30 in strokes gained off the tee. Tony Finau, Stefan Jaeger, Thomas Dietrich, and Taylor Moore didn't even hit their irons great because their power off the tee and their short game was so dialed that it actually didn't even end up putting a tremendous amount of pressure on their long irons. I mean, this is a really long golf course, and we're looking at close to 70% of approach shots from over 150 yards. Don't get me wrong, long iron play really, really matters at this golf course, but last year on the leaderboard, you saw countless examples of players that did not actually need to spike with their approach play if their short game / putting and power off the tee was so dialed in, like we saw with most of the players at the top of the leaderboard. And I think one of the reasons why short game is so important at this golf course is what I talked about earlier with the difficulty of the green complexes, right? One of the biggest standout aspects of Memorial Park, if not the biggest standout aspect of the golf course, its true identity, is the fact that it features these large, extremely challenging green complexes. And players are going to need either elite lag putting, because in a lot of these instances, you could use the Texas wedge and even putt from off the green, or elite short game expertise off of short grass, right? And that's why I'm looking heavily this week at like scrambling from short grass, how players perform at golf courses like Augusta National and Quail Hollow. Quail Hollow, for example, Quail Hollow got overseeded last year, and Quail Hollow features like very similarly now because they had a renovation that beefed up the green complexes at Quail Hollow too. And they took out a lot of the rough around the greens at Quail Hollow. And obviously Augusta falls into this category as well. I also looked at how players have performed at a place like Congaree, but these big, expansive, undulating green complexes that are surrounded by short grass instead of bunkers and thick rough, those are the around the green reference points that you want to be looking at. And that ability, we saw it time and time again last year, but that ability of either elite lag putting or that short game expertise off of short grass, to be able to make pars on the long and challenging par fours. There's 5 super long par fours here. There's 4, it's a par 70 with, I believe 3 par 5s and 5 par 3s, right? And 3 of the par 3s are quite long. 3 of the par 5s are reachable at least by the longest of players. And then you have 5 par 4s that measure over 485 yards as well. So you're going to get a tremendous amount of long irons. And guys, what happens when you have a lot of long irons is that the proximity to the hole decreases. So at this golf course, you have all of these situations where players are approaching the greens with long irons on long par 3s, the second shot on par 5s, or on long par 4s, and you're just not going to be able to get that high of a proximity to the hole. You're going to have a lot of situations where you hit your long iron to 50 feet on the green, or you hit it just off the green, and it turns into such a lag putting / up and down fest, and the leaderboard reflected that last year. So I think this is an incredibly straightforward handicap. Okay. And there are 3 very important skills that you need to capitalize on. Okay. And I don't think you need all of the 3, but I think that you need 2 of the 3. Okay. And I am only betting players that at least possess 2 out of these 3 skill sets. Number 1, carry distance, soft golf course, absolutely 0 missed fairway penalty, lowest on tour. They chop down all the rough to gustify it. I cannot emphasize enough the advantage that you have by absolutely nuking the ball here off the tee, particularly under softer conditions this year. Long iron play, of course. I don't think that this is a spike approach course by any means, or a true second shot golf course. Just like Quail Hollow, it's a real driver short game ARG / spike putting course, but there's never going to be a golf course on tour, particularly a golf course where 70% of the approach shots are over 150 yards, where you can't go out and win this golf tournament with elite long iron play. It just happens that it's not the only pathway this year compared to other golf courses that are more pure second shot golf courses. But 70% of approach shots over 150. It's just a long golf course. It is long par 5s, long par 3s, 5 super long par 4s. It's super Augusta East / Quail Hollow. And then number 3, short game skill / lag putting. Okay. So how often can you get up and down on these green complexes? It's not just short game, right? Like, I'm willing to forgive bad short game if you are an elite lag putter, but you better have one of the 2. Okay. You need to either be super elite chipping off of short grass, or a really, really awesome lag putter. Like I said, you can Texas wedge it around a lot here, but you just need to have either a nasty short game, be really freaking good off of chipping off of short grass, or a really great lag putter. And the rabbit hole does an incredible job of giving you the tools to identify who are the best at those things, right? We have data from Augusta National, okay, when other places don't. So if you wanted to actually look this week at who are the best around the green players at Augusta National, I'll actually give you this right here because it's in my rabbit hole model as well. But what I put together is my own around the green model in terms of how players have performed around the greens on what I would call these short grass intensive golf courses, right? Congaree is another great example of this. So the players that have chipped well out of these short game intensive golf courses with super undulating big green complexes, which includes Memorial Park, number 1, Scotty Scheffler, Harris English, Ricky Fowler, a lot of the guys that chipped super well at Memorial Park last year too was Aaron Rye, Stefan Jaeger, Max Grazerman, for example, Taylor Moore, Thomas Dietrich, Jason Day, are all super good examples of this. Sung JM. So let's see. Anything else on the golf course that I need to talk about? Yeah, I have some bomber stuff. It's just crazy how much the top of the leaderboard last year reflected the advantage of having a high carry distance. I mean, the top 6 finishers, Jaeger, Finau, Scheffler, Dietrich, Moore, and Toasty. And don't worry, there'll still be a player in the top 10 this year that is like a Mackenzie Hughes. It's going to happen every single year, regardless of how much of distance is an advantage. But in my opinion, the advantage that you have on this golf course based on having a high carry distance is like up there with Torrey Pines. Probably maybe not as much as Torrey Pines, because there's such a low rough penalty that if you're short, you're not going to have to hit a bunch of long irons out of thick rough. And you still have ways based on really elite long iron play to make up for a lack of distance. Like Aaron Rye is a great example of this. Aaron Rye, and we'll talk about him this week because he may be like 3rd or 4th on the odds board and like 24-1. But Aaron Rye is great at bomber heavy golf courses. Like Vidanta Vallarta, one of the most distance advantageous golf courses on the PGA Tour. And it just doesn't freaking matter with Aaron Rye because he's such a good long iron player. I mean, Aaron Rye doesn't even rank top 115 in this field in carry distance. And he still has no problem competing at these golf courses because he has the high-end tail ability to gain 9 strokes on approach based on his long iron play. So, okay, let's run through the top 20 in my model and talk Rory and Scotty and some early leans briefly. But let's take a quick break first. Okay, so let's run through it. And there is obviously at the top of the field this week, it's super top heavy. You've Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, who my guess Scotty's going to be around 4 or 5-1. Rory McIlroy is going to be around 7 or 8-1. And then the next guy on the odds board probably won't. It'll probably be somebody who's 20 or 25-1. It honestly may be like Aaron Rye in this field, or I don't know, Finau. We'll talk about Finau briefly, but you have Rory, Scotty, Rory, Kitayama, Finau, Siwoo Kim, Davis Thompson, Aaron Rye, Sungjae Im, Jason Day, Joel Dahman, Maverick McNeely, Alex Smalley, Jonathan Vegas, Charlie Hoffman, Taylor Moore, Stefan Jaeger, Taylor Pendrith, Wyndham Clark, Minwoo Lee, Michael Kim. So you run through it, and so many of those guys in the top 20 are fitting the criteria that I'm looking for this week of having at least 2 out of the 3 skills, right? So let's see. Kitayama, driver long irons, 2 out of the 3 skills. Tony Finau, driver long irons and elite short game. Finau actually has 3 out of the 3 skills, and I would say that this is as close to a perfect Tony Finau golf course on the PGA Tour. Obviously, he was a core play for us last year. I cannot reveal much here in terms of having this be public information, but there's some stuff going on in the Finau camp right now, both from he's battling with an injury, and I will say, because it's a very small Vic lap. Like I think about, for example, my job means absolutely nothing. I mean, I really don't have any impact in terms of, I help people make money. And I think provide people a lot of joy with what I'm doing at ISN in terms of like providing a really fun community for people to sweat their golf bets. But my impact on the world, my job is so ridiculously unimportant. And I'm reminded of that every single day because my girlfriend is a veterinarian. So like she comes back from work and is performing open heart surgery on a dog and like saving the lives of animals every single day and bringing so much joy to families, and doing so much good and important work in the world with the work that she's doing. The podcast that I put out with Tony Finau's former agent was probably the most important thing I've done in my career, because it made a difference, let's just say, in that Tony Finau situation. And so the broader point that I would say is, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Finau. Finau's dealing with a lot of bullshit right now. And when I say bullshit, it's very much justified bullshit, but it's a lot of noise. And he's got some health stuff going on top of that as well. Now, is that offset by the fact that this is a literal perfect golf course for him? I'm not sure. Let's see how the ownership comes in. But put it this way, he's been an easy fade the last couple of weeks for us. It hasn't been a surprise that Finau is not playing his best golf at the moment right now with all the other stuff that's going on in his life. But if there's ever a golf course for Finau to get it back, this one. But like Siwoo Kim, another example. Siwoo Kim doesn't have the carry distance, but he checks two of the other three boxes. Siwoo is a great long iron player. I played Siwoo. I bet Siwoo last year too. He's an awesome long iron player, and he's got a nasty short game. Davis Thompson, who is my pick to win this week. And I would say that Davis Thompson, he's going to get hit, would be my guess. I don't know what he's going to open at, but I would be surprised if he doesn't settle around 35-1. Okay. And I probably like him all the way down to 30. I don't know what he's going to open at, but I'm going to probably make that bet on Sunday night with whatever the DraftKings number is, because the way that I'm modeling and the way that I know now that a lot of other sharp bettors are going to look at this golf course and model out this golf course. There's a lot of sharp bettors I know that are very much fans of what Davis Thompson is doing, and particularly Davis Thompson's fit on this specific golf course. That is one that I would hit earlier rather than later if you are so inclined to join us on the Davis Thompson train this week, because I couldn't think of a better golf course for DT's skill set, right? What does Davis Thompson do quite well? He's a phenomenal driver of the ball. He's got very solid carry distance. He's not one of the longest players on tour, but he's big time, got above average carry distance. He's not the best long iron player in the world, but he actually has been hitting his irons a lot better the last couple of weeks. Like, I thought the fact that he was able to backdoor top 10 at TPC Sawgrass was a really good sign, because TPC Sawgrass is not a great Davis Thompson golf course. I mean, TPC Sawgrass is an accuracy and approach golf course, and those are two of the weaker aspects of DT's game. DT is a bomber short game guy, which makes Houston Open a perfect fit for him. So the fact that Davis Thompson's hitting his irons well right now, and he was able to top 10 at a golf course that I don't really think is the best fit for his skill set. Now he's traveling to a golf course that highly accentuates the things that he does well. And what do you know? Shocker, he played great at this golf course last year under the overseed, finishing 21st, gaining significantly off the tee and around the green. We're big DT guys this week in the ISN family. That will be a bet for me this evening when DraftKings releases those odds, hopefully on Sunday night, when I'm hopefully driving back from the golf course celebrating either a Bridgman win or at least another victory in my member. And then you get into Aaron Rai, right? Which, is this the sell high moment on Aaron Rai, right? We have been riding the guy all season. Aaron Rai has been a core play for me this year more than any other player in golf, and it's worked out beautifully for me. I mean, he's got 3 top 20 finishes in a row. He had another awesome performance at the Players Championship where he basically led the field in strokes gained off the tee because he was just so insanely accurate. And yes, this is not a golf. He almost led the field last year at the Houston Open in short game as well. So while this is not a golf course that is great for him off the tee, you want to play Aaron Rai on accuracy over distance golf courses, and this is a pure distance over accuracy golf course. That's why it's like you need 2 of the 3 skills, because it doesn't matter that Aaron Rai doesn't have great carry distance. He's one of the best 5 to 10 long iron players in the entire field. So often Aaron Rai's ability with a 4 or a 5 iron is better than many longer players' ability with a 6 or a 7 iron. So you're kind of at a point of demarcation with Aaron Rai, where is this the time where you sell high and you look at that betting number, which might be as low as 25 to 1. I mean, I'm telling you right now, based on the data and based on the way that I know other sharp bettors are going to model this golf course, Aaron Rai is going to get nuked pretty significantly. A lot of sharp bettors don't care about the numbers because they'll just bet on bookmaker because it's the only place that they can get down significant amounts of money versus being limited on other, more popular, probably less sharp catering books like a DraftKings or a FanDuel. For example, you look at last week at the Valspar with Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood opened at 12 to 1, I think, on bookmaker. And the same thing happened with Colin Morikawa, by the way, at the Players Championship. Both Tommy Fleetwood and Colin Morikawa opened at 12 to 1 on bookmaker. And both those guys still got hit by sharp bettors and got bet down to like 9, 10, 11 to 1. Whereas other books, you could have bet either of those guys throughout the week at 13, 14, 15, 16 to 1, maybe. You just wouldn't be able to get down at super high limits if you're the type of clientele that's betting that on bookmaker. And so my prediction, Aaron Rai, I would not be surprised if he opens low and still receives some sort of nuke and respect from the sharp community. But we'll see. Aaron Rai could open. Aaron Rai, you could make a strong case right now, particularly if how much you want to give weight to like how Tony Finau is playing versus the course fit. I still believe Tony Finau is the 3rd best player in this field, but he's certainly not playing like one. And I certainly don't think his chances to win this golf tournament are higher than Aaron Rai right now. Okay. So you could probably make the argument that, and depending on how you feel about Sungjae, who I don't love here, he's passing one of the 3 skills. So he's not going to be a bet for me because he doesn't have a high carry distance. His iron play has been absolute dog shit. So his path to victory here is basically got to be all short game and putting. But some of the other guys that I'm looking at that are checking 2 of those 3 boxes, Alex Smalley is a good example of this. We rode Alex Smalley pretty hard at the Players. We said 9K this week. Perfect time to sell high and hop off. Expected heat check performance, misses the cut at the Valspar. Now we come back in on Alex Smalley at a better golf course fit for him than the Valspar, right? Alex Smalley, one of the best drivers of the ball on tour right now. He's both long and straight. So even though this golf course doesn't test accuracy, he's plenty long off the tee. And he's got a nasty short game, right? So like Alex Smalley's skill set is pretty similar to Davis Thompson. Okay. I think Davis Thompson is a better putter and has more putting upside, but like that combination of power off the tee and great short game, Davis Thompson and Alex Smalley have that. Okay. A really good bounce back spot for Taylor Moore, who missed the cut at the Valspar. But Taylor Moore, 2nd place finish here last year, he's checking the nasty short game and bomber off the tee, right? 2 out of the 3 boxes. Taylor Pendrith has a great Taylor Pendrith spot. Okay. Taylor Pendrith, he doesn't have a good short game whatsoever, but he's got some spike putting ability. Okay. And he actually started to finally make some putts last week at the Players Championship. Obviously, he's got the super high carry distance, and he's got a lot of the irons kind of come and go for Pendy, but he's got a lot of long iron upside. So depending on how Pendy is playing, you could either make the argument that Pendy is checking all three of the boxes or one of the boxes, because the iron play is somewhat erratic with Pendrith, and the putting is somewhat erratic with Pendrith as well. But he, like, if you want to give him half a point for the irons and half a point for the short game putting, you're still going to get to 2 out of the 3 because the carry distance is always going to show up. I think this is a phenomenal Wyndham Clark golf course, like a phenomenal Wyndham Clark golf course. I just don't know if he's healthy. He withdrew from the Players in the middle of the tournament after he actually had a decent round 1. And he didn't play in the TGL match last week too. So again, with guys like Tony Finau and Wyndham Clark, if those players were healthy, this would be a perfect golf course for them. I just don't know if they're completely healthy. So early leans for me: Davis Thompson, Alex Smalley, Pendrith. I really like Minwoo Lee here too. He's never played the golf course before, but you talk about a player who has super high carry distance, kind of a low-key nasty short game. Minwoo Lee is a great chipper, and also some serious spike putting ability. He's not a great iron player. He does have some random spike approach upside, but even if you want to not give Minwoo any credit for the iron play, he's still absolutely a 2 or 3 boxes guy, because you're getting some either nasty short game or spike putting ability with Minwoo Lee. And obviously you can count on the carry distance as well. So anyway, that will do it for me. As always, big battle right now, some big decision making with my team in the ISN community about whether this podcast should continue to be free. And the best case for this podcast to continue to be free is if you share some support of it on YouTube. Give it a like, a subscribe on YouTube, maybe a retweet if these golf course breakdowns help you in any way, shape, or form. Good luck with your bets today at the Valspar. Go Bridgman. Wish me luck in my member match, and join the community with us over at ISN, InsideSportsNetwork.com. I promise you, if you are a bettor and a DFS player, you will not be disappointed with the level of analysis and the product that we are providing on a week-to-week basis. So again, good luck with the bets. Good luck with the bets today. Go Bridgman. And we no Monday pod for me. Okay, guys. The Masters, we're going all out, right? Like next week, the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna have double the episodes on Inside Golf Podcast for the Masters. So this coming Monday, I'm taking a week off to get my ducks in a row for the Masters. Okay. So this is the only Inside Golf podcast that you'll get this week, but I promise we'll make up for it in Masters content. Like the following 2 weeks after that, you're going to get double the episodes, right? I put out 2 episodes the week before Masters and 2 episodes the week of Masters, an extra one for each week. So again, best of luck with your bets this week. Enjoy the golf today. Cheers.